Hello, everybody, and welcome to the entertainment headquarters, and welcome to Kaiju Connections, my segment on the channel dedicated to all things Kaiju, giant monster from the world of obviously Godzilla, Gamera, Kong, anything of that nature from that genre. And we'll talk about films and television. And so, right now, we're here to talk about the series that's just ended, where everybody's got either great things to say about it, not so positive things about it, or people are very excited for this series to continue, which we'll get into. And of course, I'm talking about Monarch Legacy of Monsters, the continuation of the Monsterverse by Legendary Pictures and a part of Apple TV. So to talk about season 2, my co-host, my good friend, who I did the review of Legacy of Monsters season 1 with, and DJ Neko, Mr. DJ Anubis of the Metal Tavern Radio.
What's up, everybody?
Yes, welcome. And Mr. Jedi Granville, who's just binge-watched the entire season 1 and 2 over the past 2 days. And then we'll have Big Bad Wolf. And then we'll have the Kaiju Enigma Ultra J Call. So, here we are. Legacy of Monsters Season 2, which of course is a continuation of the Monsterverse. It's both a mixture of a prequel and a kind of, I guess, side sequel to the movies, because the entire concept of Legacy of Monsters is about one particular family and they're linked to Monarch, the agency that basically tracks, monitors, learns how to deal with and protect us from the Mutos, which is massive, unidentified terrestrial organisms. And the whole show is about Bill Randa's character. Bill Randa's character was the character that was played by John Goodman in Kong Skull Island.
Mm-hmm.
And it's about him and his family, how his wife's involved. Then you get to meet his son, then you get to meet his grandchildren, and how they all basically are interlinked with the events of Monarch and throughout the show. So, starting with DJ Anubis, how did you find, for example, the kind of interlinking stories among the Bill Randa and the Randa family, and how it all kind of came together in season 1 with Monarch?
I liked it. I mean, that's the whole idea behind Legacy of Monsters is kind of fill in the gaps between the movies, 2014, King of the Monsters, and then to GVK and so on. So, whereas some people don't really care for the more character-driven stuff, I think this is actually a good thing for the MonsterVerse, especially with some of us who kind of like the more serious tone that started with 2014 and went into King of the Monsters. Even though it's kind of gotten sillier with the monsters going forward, I think I really like the story building. Obviously, some of the characters can be problematic because they're, fighting between trying to be inclusive and create broader storylines for their characters. I think they've done a pretty good job of, especially in season 2, they've kind of gotten away from worrying about that aspect too much and just sticking with the main characters, their backstories, and how they got to where they are and why.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because if you take away the monsters and all the monster action, it is pretty much about the family and the connection between them and how they interlink with Monarch. So sorry. Before I carry on, I'm just going to do some key plot points from season 1, which can then once I do these, we can move forward and talk about season 2. key plot points and revelations of season one were the series shift between 1950s times in the Monarch by Keiko and Shaw, Major Shaw, who was played by Kate Russell and Wyatt Russell representedly. You know, they one plays the older version, one plays the younger version. So it shows you them for Monarch, and then the 1960s Operation Hourglass and the 2015 post Godzilla battle. The big secret: Kate and Kentaro learn their father Hiroshi Randa was living a double life with two families. Axis Mundi, the Hollow Earth portal. It is discovered that Titans use a vast underground network of portals. Time moves much slower inside this realm. Keiko's survival. Keiko, believed to have died in 1959, is found alive in the portal world, having only aged about 57 days over 30 years. Lee Shaw's sacrifice. Shaw sacrifices himself in the final to allow the others to escape the Titan world, staying behind with a dragon-like monster. So that sets up the beginning of season two, because at the end of season one, they basically rescued Kate and Keiko from the Axis Mundi, but when they re-emerged from the pod, they ended up waking up, or not waking up, came and landed in this location, which happened to be Skull Island, and you're introduced to how Monarch have kind of lost control of things, and now people now Monarch is now teamed up with Apex Cybernetics and now have a compound on Skull Island. And the last shot in season one was that Kong was about to hit the facility after the rescue of Kate and Keiko. And for me, the second season, the first episode starts off with a bang. It starts off right from that point. Kong in the area about to, attack this compound, and then this is where you see Kate, Hiroshi, Kentaro, Keiko, basically end up going with the people from Monarch and Access Money, and then they go to Outpost 18, which is the giant ship, which is circling Skull Island. So quite an interesting start. So start again with you guys. We'll start with Walter. How did you feel about the beginning of season two?
Well, should mention this. Hearing echoes of myself.
I think you're just going crazy.
Okay. No. No. The way it starts out, and I should make this known that I actually binge watched both seasons from yesterday evening up until now. So, yeah, it's. I'm surprised I was able to do that, but I did. But anyway, with that being said, though, how it ends from season one right into the beginning of season two is like, okay, straight carry on and continuation. And it's kind of mind-boggling because it's like when you discover that Keiko is, alive and she hasn't aged really that much, it's like, and to meet her grandchildren and to meet her, it's like, whoa, this is mind-blowing. And this is how you do good science fiction. You do good storytelling, and like I say, also dealing with Shaw, played by Wyatt Russell and Kirk Russell. And I should point this fun fact out: this is not the first time that they played same character in a format, believe it or not. I don't know if you know this, that Shaw, Kirk Russell and his son played the same character in Soldier. I don't know if you realize that. Just a little side note.
Yeah, sure.
His son played the younger kid version of him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So. But other than that,
yeah. So basically as the first season, carries on. The first episode, basically what happened in the first episode is they basically get back to Outpost 18. Keiko, who's now in our world in the future, is kind of in shock and trying to adjust to the, because she's been in the Axis Mundi for so long, her body's now adjusting to her returning to our kind of world. Kentaro, Hiroshi, and obviously Kate are kind of like in shock with the events that transpired, and they feel terrible that they've left Shaw behind. And this is when they basically decide to work together to rescue Shaw. And against Monarch's, permission, they end up going back to the island without them knowing, to basically send a pod back down to the Axis Mundi to rescue Shaw. And this is where the first episode ends with quite a bang, because when they rescue Shaw and they send this pod down, it actually creates an event that awakens a Titan that has been sleeping all this time in the Axis Mundi, who suddenly awakens and decides, use the portal to come back into our world and head into the oceans. And that Titan then becomes known as Titan X and becomes, I guess, the main star of Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2. So I'll ask you guys, what was your opinion on look and who Titan X is? Well, I'll start with Big Bad Wolf.
So she was a very interesting design Titan. You expect her to be completely almost like an octopus from just the scenes you saw from the trailer and a little bit of the concept art. It's not too late. You see she has a full body, but it's like she has these tentacles on her, so she's almost like a mix between a Piscine and a cephalopod. But what's interesting too is her face reminds me of the Red Death from How to Train Your Dragon. Like her facial features are very similar to the Red Death. Especially when, I'm not sure from the front, but if you look at it from the side, especially that concept art, it's just very much like the Red Death. But the funny thing is, when she first came out, a lot of people were making connections to Biollante.
Yeah.
In which I think I could just kind of see maybe the face, maybe. But other than that, I think it was just like a new original creation they went with. And at first, I'm like, how is this Titan going to hold up to like Godzilla or Kong? Because you don't see much of it. But once we go through the discussion, everybody will figure out that this Titan actually has a few tricks up her sleeves that can make her formidable.
Jake, what was your opinion of Titan X?
It was a unique creature. When I first saw it in its full glory, I loved the design. I thought it was a very unique design and what the direction they went with this creature. It definitely had needle sharp teeth, kind of similar to a Mako shark almost, from what I saw. And other than that, I thought its whole design was pretty cool. The horns were pretty cool, and I love the aspect of you kind of see it in the first episode, but its horns can change color.
Yeah.
So
if it's calm and peaceful, like if you look at this image, if it's calm and peaceful, if you can see, it's got like a blue glow on its horns, but like when it's feeling danger of it, feels like it has to defend itself, it suddenly goes red.
Kind of reminds me of the infant Godzillas from Heisei era, where every time they got scared or spooked, their eyes glowed red.
Well, that's like Mothra, when the Mothra You know how it has like blue eyes, but then
Mhm.
when they're angry, they grow the larvae. The larvae's eyes will glow red when it's scared or danger. And you see like in um when it was King of the Monsters, when the larvae was in the confinement, it had that blue luminous glow, but then when they started attacking her, she then shined red.
Right.
So I like how they've continued that pattern of showing like the emotions via color with the Titans.
And I think that's something that's so overlooked by random people. Especially if you're not a fan of these films or you're not hardcore fans. I noticed that subtlety way back with the Showa one, even with the Heisei or even the Millennium. They'll show that moment where the color of the eyes change color. It's like, oh, you actually get the emotion. In fact, I mean, when you watch what is Godzilla Tokyo SOS.
Yes.
When the larva, yes, when you see the larva, see that their Martha gets blown away. You see, not just see, but you hear their change of tone when their eyes change, and then he was like, it's like they're feeling some pain knowing that she's gone like that. It's like you feel that. That's like it's a subtle thing, but it's there.
Mm-hmm. So the first episode basically started and ended with a bang. And for me, when it comes to the rest of the season after the first episode, it has the same kind of tone, its same kind of level of pacing, the way the first season did. Like, I do feel like some episodes I would consider filler episodes where you can't just have monster action all the time. Yeah, they're trying to tell a continuous story with you. They're making you trying to bond with the characters. But I do also think the show has pacing issues with the way the storyline come across it. The first season I think had better pacing. And because it was, and I liked how it linked everything back to 2014, like the whole scene in the Bikini Atoll where you're seeing, you remember the beginning of 2014 where you're seeing Godzilla going towards the island and he suddenly just stood up and then you're just seeing the exploding of the bomb. And then in Legacy of Monster Season 1, that actually showed you the event and why that event happened. And I feel as if even though I do like season 2, I feel like season 1 did it better. And I don't know if it's because of the events that they showcased in season 1 that linked to 2014, made it more organic and connective.
Well, I think you bring up a good point. It's like they're just, and that's the funny thing about this show is that the whole purpose of it is the monsters. We know the Titans, we got to see them, but how is the human interaction working in connection to the Titans? And I kind of brought this up before with the movies, especially like the King of the Monsters, and not so much the King of the Monsters, but with Godzilla versus Kong and then Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. There's supposed to be a kind of a balance with the Titans and the human interaction. That story will find that, but sometimes that's kind of hard to do if you want to say, well, do we come to the films to see people talking and blah blah blah? It's like, well, you got to remember they're the heart of the story. You have to have them in order to explain certain things, which is why with this show, and I'm kind of like what you say. Some of these episodes were filler with humans, but in a way, it's all about pacing. Because honestly, I can listen to and watch the story of people's backstory about what's going on when transpired and whatever going on. But if it's not done in a very cohesive and entertaining way, where it's like, oh God, what y'all talking bullshit now? Okay, you get on my nerves. You get to the damn.
Well, that's what it is, right? Because most people that don't complain, like say -1 or 1954, everyone loves those stories. They love the character plots. They love everything about it, and they don't complain about the monster time in those films. But MonsterVerse, because they're not very in-depth characters. They don't really dive into the backgrounds. They don't really make them that special. We kind of just get, I won't say us, but I'll say other Godzilla fans will get upset because it doesn't have that deep storytelling. And so on one point I can kind of understand it, but then at the other point of it, I'm like, well, if you go back to one of Walter's favorites, Godzilla versus Megalon, those characters really aren't that deep. They're not. They're scientists, and then they have the kid running around. So it's some of it's fun, and that's kind of like what the MonsterVerse is doing. Now, is it inconsistent? Sure. We start with 2014, and we kind of go along. We've got all these different things going on, but Monarch so far has really been consistent on how it's been put together, and I don't mind that. As long as they're going to stick with that, great.
I think for me though, like the family dynamic, I think now that they've got over, so basically as the season, after episode 1, episode 2, they discover these scarabs that are like walking around, and then they realize that the scarabs and Titan X have like this connected, relationship. Also, Keiko in the show realize that they've seen this Titan before. And that then you have all the flashbacks when they went and they visited this village, and then they found out that there was this legend of this creature that they believed like the worshipped as a god, and they give it a name, and the name that they give the Titan X was the El Gran Dios del Mar, which was like the god of the sea or something like that. So I do like how just like the first season, it dips from the past to the future, and it's connected, and they actually add real kind of like folklores and mythology, and because let's face it, the thing when it comes to the MonsterVerse, they do use real human like histories and folklores and things of that nature. And like if you look at all the Titans that appeared in King of the Monsters, they were all named after Greek gods. So you had Tiamat, you had Methuselah, and you had all of that, Behemoth, so the Typhon and all that. You had all these well-known that are part of real mythology and folklores and history within the human foundations of our societies around the world. So I do really like that aspect of it.
And can I point one thing out real quick, Kevin, is that this show takes the advantage of doing a lot of non-linear storytelling. I mean, that's something that I feel now for me personally, growing up, that kind of like threw me off because like, okay, can you stay in one particular century or whatever, but when it's connected, you don't lose face with that. You actually kind of like, oh, okay, this is the reason.
It's pretty much like how they did the first season of The Witcher. Is certain perspectives of characters took place in certain time periods. It was like Geralt's view. It was completely things leading up to him leading the series, and then Ciri's point of view was things that happened and made him run off and meet Geralt as well. But Geralt's part was always like before current events, whereas Ciri's was during the current events.
Yes. So this, like you see, there's different time jumps. So it basically shows you the love triangle between Bill Branda, Lee Shaw, and Keiko in the past. But then it also shows you the relationship between Hiroshi and his children, and how he kind of disappeared, and how he had a similar relationship or a similar situation to his own mother, where she, throughout the human story in the second season, she's looking at Hiroshi as this proud dad of these two kids, and she didn't realize that he had one was from a secret family, and he didn't spend much time with them as a kid. Now she's feeling guilty, like could that have been because she had disappeared and he had abandonment issues, and it's kind of spread onto his kids. But then it's revealed down the line that everything he was doing was to prove that his parents' theories of the Hollow Earth and the Axis Mundi and these different portals all interlinked to one place.
But can I just say this too? When you bring that up with the family dynamic, it's funny that, like I say, Keiko has that situation where she has two individuals that she is involved with, and the same with Hiroshi doing the same thing. You come to find out that Kate kind of does that same thing too. It's like you have two livers. It's like, wait a minute, like you're not fair with one of them, with one another. You just what? You're bed hopping here. It's like I'm thinking, like, okay, what's going on here? But
yeah, Kate did do so because in that season 1, that flashback of her before
like,
her lover that she worked with got killed, she was sleeping with another woman prior to that.
I'm just like,
Yeah.
okay, I guess the apple doesn't fall far from the tree on that, So I was like, all right.
And she deals with a lot of guilt in season 2 because the guilt that she's the one who. Hello, Logan. What's your thoughts on season 2?
We get a cameo here.
Special guest.
She was a school teacher on the bus, and then the bus fell off the end of the bridge, and that had like a girlfriend in the bus who she was cheating with, and then throughout the course of season 2, you basically see a reconnect with the lover that she had. And that's because she feels guilty because she released this new Titan onto the world. And later on, she even gets more guilt because of the events that transpire with her father, who, this is spoiler heavy, her father ends up being killed in an accident featuring Monster X in Apex.
But I gotta just point this out quickly. Isn't it funny that all these Titan events are happening because people are the cause and effect of all the bullshit going on? It's like, do y'all not know? Y'all are letting y'all emotions drive you to doing the dumb shit. But I understand why you're doing. You're trying to get some retribution. What's up, Matt? Doing okay?
What up, Matt?
You're trying to get some retribution. I get it. I understand, but you got to take logic over all that and think like what's better for the planet in this moment. But it's like, again,
yeah, it's like if you look at that episode before Titan X makes a rampage where she first appeared, she was being peaceful until Apex screwed around and found out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. See, that's one thing I'll say. My issue with season 2 is the pacings. I've got issues with the pacing, but one thing I'll say about the story is more emotional.
Yeah.
There's more stakes involved in season 2. So, like, for example, with the whole Kate journey of being the one who's released Monster X to her right at the end of the season, being the one that has the most connection with that creature, and like that whole emotional moment that she has with Titan X, it's like a thank you and a goodbye and all that right at the end of the season. And then she's also trying to come over the grief of losing her father. Keiko throughout the season, she's now trying to, accept a new role in the world and reconnect with her grandchildren and her son in the loss of her son. Lee Shaw's character, for me, is a strong character where he's just trying to solve the problem. He's trying to solve the world's problems, like by working.
Can we say real quick, Wyatt is like just as good as an actor as his dad. Like, I'm really impressed with Wyatt's acting. Everything I've seen him in so far, I've been amazed with.
Well, what's funny too is someone mentioned in one of the scenes where he's in Legacy of Monsters, they mentioned what's so perfect is he literally has his father's mannerisms down that it actually feels like he's playing a younger version of that character.
Mm-hmm, definitely. And I think because he has been so impressive as the young Lee Shaw, that's why he is now getting his own spin-off.
Oh,
Red Monarch, which is set in which is going to be set in 1984, 1985, and it's where he has to go to Russia to stop the Russians from working to release a Titan to attack America.
wow. Now I'm just spin doctoring something real quick. I mean, if that's the case, he has to go to Russia. I'm wondering if the so-called
Chernobyl.
Chernobyl, thank you, incident comes into play with that, because I mean, I know it's from 84 to 85, but it happens in 86. So I'm just wondering that might be.
Well, a lot of people, we're not going to reveal it yet, but there's a lot of people believe that the ending that happens at the end of season 2 is going to be tied into that. It's going to be tied into Red Monarch.
Well, that's one thing I was talking to Kevin about, but now that he mentions it's taking place in the 80s, then that kind of leaves my theory out the roof. But I told him when he said like he had to go to Russia, that made me think there was a scene in the Godzilla Dominion comic where Godzilla goes to Russia because this eco-terrorist group captured a Titan that was releasing these distress calls that was calling to Godzilla. That Godzilla had to go and release this Titan because the Russians were trying to capture it. But now that you mentioned it takes place in the 80s, that may not be the case anymore.
Mm-hmm. So, as the season progresses, Kate's journey is where she's now full of guilt and she's attempting to try and, solve a problem. Lee Shaw, he's still trying to figure out his relationship with Keiko. He still really loves her, and he's like, at the same time trying to protect the world, he's trying to let her go. Tim, who's now in charge of Monarch, he's like heads, above water. He's like struggling to like keep control of the situation. If trying to figure out what Titan X motor.
He's trying to find his place in the world, basically, is what he's doing.
We lost our host.
I was going to say he froze up. It's like...
The internet froze him at the worst time, too.
Wow.
Right?
But there you go.
Now he's back.
There we go. That's Logan. Playing with me wires.
Let's say release the
But, so basically what happens is he's trying to, and then there's like this tug of war, like a power struggle between him and Apex.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing that plays a part in this film. You've got this power struggle between Apex and Monarch over like how to control or what to do with Titan X.
But I have to say, I do like Tim's character arc. It's like he seems more of a follower than a leader, but when he's got to do when it's necessary, it's like he rises to that. I mean, he still is like kind of fish out of water kind of individual, but those kind of characters are the kind that's like, hey, you don't know your full potential, and he does this in this show. I mean, which I like. I mean, that's like,
he's impressed me. He impressed me this season, especially with what happens in episode 10. There's this one thing that happens in episode 10. I was like, oh crap!
Right?
Yeah,
that's right.
And
yeah.
so,
like you probably know what I'm talking about, Walter.
No, I know what you're talking about. I know exactly what you're talking about.
So it's like, and then obviously, Tim's character, he has a massive development in this. Keiko, Kate do, Lee Shaw do, but there is a particular character that we'll have to talk about who I just don't know how I take this character, and it's the character of Kentaro. I think for the first half of the season that he was just a background character. They literally did nothing with the character, and then it's not till after Hiroshi unfortunately passes away due to the accident with Titan X. He's now, obviously, he didn't witness his father or was there when his father died. You have the beautiful funeral sequence. Kate's feeling guilty, and he's like basically, like, he shows no emotion. He's very locked in. And then this is when you're introduced to a new character known as Isabel Simmons.
Yeah.
And this is for me, it's once you get the series up to this had issues with the pacing, but the storyline was still steady. It's once Hiroshi passed that a new element of the story was added. And that new element for me was now having this new character trying to manipulate and use Kentaro to get what you wanted, which is to get information on Titan X from Monarch. And throughout the course of that new plot, that twist that's hid in Kate and Keiko working together to figure out what Titan X is doing. You also have all these other elements. Like, I love the Easter eggs and how we went back to Skull Island. And there's a particular scene in one of the episodes where you see Lee Shaw and then you see Keiko, and they're together, and there's like they're called the stampede caterpillars.
Yeah.
So basically, they start rolling, and then you see Shaw and Keiko trying to find a way to not be, crushed. And they suddenly, as they walk around, they see like a helicopter that's just lying there, and it's one of the helicopters that was destroyed or attacked by Kong in Skull Island.
Mhm.
So it's just those little Easter eggs, and of course, Bill Randa's character. I liked how he basically found out that Keiko and Lee had some sort of relationship or some sort of passionate moment, but yet he stays strong. He still loves Keiko, tries to be there, but then obviously you see him go out there and he's trying to prove his theory that all these little openings lead to one place, and basically Skull Island's like the epicenter of the portals. And I'm sure in one of the movies somebody said that Skull Island was like the hollow earth that had risen from the ground.
Yeah, that would be Godzilla vs. Kong, where it's brought up to him by, I think it was Walt Simmons when they brought in Nathan Lynn's character because he was selected for the mission. And they're like, you mentioned in your book that Skull Island is literally the hollow earth coming to the surface.
So I found it quite emotional that he did all that and then he ended up dying. The John Goodman version on that island, and it give you more emphasis and more kind of history and more like sympathy for the John Goodman character, because once you knew what happened. And I like how Hiroshi was just trying to prove his parents' theory right.
Yeah.
What the hell, Mike?
But okay, but no, he wants to be on camera. That's all. That's all it is. But no.
Tell him he could be a little bit more like her.
Yeah. See, she's chilling. See?
She doesn't even attack my wires.
No, but the Hiroshi, yeah, like I say, with Hiroshi and with Bill, and the thing is, you don't get that sense of. I mean, he's trying to prove he's not crazy, Bill Randa's creator, when you see him in Skull Island.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Oh,
Her
yeah.
character improved this season.
Very much.
I 100% agree. Like, I agree with that because in season 1, Kate I thought was annoying. And my biggest thing was, are they going to make Kate and me have a love triangle with Kentaro? And they never did that. They kind of kept the love triangle contained with Lee Shaw and Bill Randa and Keiko. And then the development of Kate's character in Monarch Season 2, Legacy of Monsters, has been the strongest, like, kind of growth of any of the characters.
I think she's more of the glue in this particular sense, and I think that's why I'm glad she was, because I'm like John, like I was like, she was kind of annoying. It's like okay, but here she actually rises to the occasion, because when she's does something out of guilt, she's like, okay, I can't run.
It's like I think it was episode 8 where Godzilla first attacks Titan X in the Sahara. Where you see like Lee Shaw goes, you weren't there, G. They don't know what happened. She goes, I know what happened at G-Day. I watched friends die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I like how, so Kate's character is the strongest. I think Keiko's character, by the end of season 2, she's like accepted her surroundings and she's accepted her situation, how she's now in the future. Lee Shaw's finally let her go. And he's now finally, that's why he was so attached to Hiroshi's kids and Hiroshi, because he was trying to find her and see if he ever give up hope. But he was also trying to, I guess it was his way of, because he let her go and she fell and he thought he lost her in season 1. It was his way of kind of, I guess, paying her back by rescuing her. Because he felt so lost that all that had happened.
What's amazing is like episode 7, you see more of that when he gets in contact with his past self. Then eventually his past self is like, okay, who the heck are you? How do you know all this? And he had to come clean. And then eventually we get to that point where he spots Keiko and he goes like, listen, if you go to her now, you'll mess up what's going on now in the present. He goes, you don't know what consequences you have coming your way. And he's like, if you love her, you'll let her go and watch her from a distance.
And I'm going to say, go ahead.
I was going to say, it's like all you men, we probably heard this advice so many times growing up when it came to women, especially that one we have a hard time letting go, whether we were in a relationship or some we tried to pursue but never could. You probably heard this a lot of times. The best you could do is love them from a distance.
Yes. But I was going to say, though, add on to John, I was hoping, I'm seeing this parallel, but I was like, please do not do a Back to the Future motif right here. Because, I was thinking paradox thought process so quickly. It's like, if you do something to interfere what is already going on, it's like, dude, you're going to cause a great, you think you got a rift now, you're going to create a bigger rift by interacting with her, knowing that you're in touch with your older self, so.
Well, I think there's a great line by the older Russell in that, whereas as they're talking, the younger version is basically saying, like, how do you know if I don't go to her now, I don't save her, like, we get out of here? And he says, well, because right now I'm in a present where she's back and she's safe. So you couldn't guarantee that if the younger version tried to save her at that moment. So that was probably the best advice he gave. Is like, I have more stats and facts backing me up now that she's okay than you would just guessing.
And he brings up her kids too. He goes, you're going to meet her grandkids and you are going to love them to death.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And even those interaction with young Lee Shaw Audley, even I loved how they did this thing with young Lee Shaw when every time he was saying something trying to be sarcastic, the older one would be just as sarcastic, and he's like, you sound just like me.
Yeah.
He's like, wait a minute. He had that look like, am I arguing with myself?
Yes. He's like, yeah, you sound just like me.
Because when the oldest one said, he's like, say that again. You say, you sound just like, and then he emphasizes me. I was like, yeah, he gets it. I love that.
Yeah, it's kind of like that moment. It's like that moment from Family Guy when Stewie comes on to Buster, who he thinks is his real dad. He goes like, I'm not your dad, Stewie. I'm you. Because it turns out that Stewie goes back in time for vacation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, like you say, you've these characters, I think Kate had the strongest story arc of season 2. Hiroshi, honestly, I did not expect him to die the way he did, but it actually, for me, when I was starting to feel like, where's this gonna go? When he passed away, for me, it gives the whole season a new dimension, and it added depth to the characters. And then, of course, when you've got Lee Shaw's character and the Keiko storyline, I thought they were brilliant. I thought they were absolutely brilliant. I loved this. I loved how this ended. In Tim's character's grown on it. Like the first season, I didn't know how I felt about his character. I didn't know if he was going to end up being become the villain. but he's actually become one of the most. For me, he's gonna be like a newer version, I think, of Dr. Zarazawa in terms of like how he's running the organization, because he believes in what the organization stands for and its message, which is discover and defend.
I was kind of wondering.
Yeah, again, I was trying to say that like the one thing with Tim that really impressed me that took me off of loop was episode 10 when he tackled that one Apex associate that was trying to get in the elevator. I was like, holy crap!
See, I did
not expect that from Tim.
Me too. That shows that he had growth. That shows right there that the person just said, he's funny, but he's not irritating like Benny is. Benny is like, dude, you get under my skin. He's given that natural, comic relief where it's not overbearing. And like I say, when he rises to the occasion when he needs to, because he's like, hey, I don't want to be this, because when Homegirl gets killed, who is the lead of Monarch, it's like, who's next in charge? It's like, you are, it's like, I don't want that position. I don't want that role. I don't want that responsibility. But
don't put that evil on me.
Exactly. It's like he doesn't want to take that role. But as time progresses, and I think that's done naturally, he learns to say, okay, if things got to go south, I want to take responsibility for it, and I'm going to make the decisions that need to weigh in. And like I say, when like John say, when he had to get into his elevator, he tackled that dude. I was like, damn, okay. It's like, all right. It's like, all right.
What made it funny was May looked at him like, dang, he said something like he was the top linebacker on his high school football team.
Yeah.
No, college. Mm-hmm. He said he was the top linebacker on his college football team.
No, he was a backup punter, I think is what he was.
Like, what I liked as well is, when all said and done, the main story arc is the discovery of Titan X, what's Titan X after, in and out of, obviously, the family dynamic plot. And then it turns out that this creature, Titan X, which actually his name is called Kokai, that is the name of Titan X, Kokai, Titanus Kokai. It turns out, because of the interference from Kate, I feel as if it was woken up earlier than it should have been. It was then obviously released back into our world. It then was doing its what's it called? It's a
migratory route.
Yeah, doing that. But then when it got to the island, and Apex interfered with it by trying to control it with that device that drilled into it, it totally knocked it off its senses, and it now started going to different areas. It then ends up in Australia. And this is when Lee Shaw gets the great idea, well, this thing's going to try and destroy us and all that. The only thing that can destroy a Titan is another Titan. So, of course, he decides to invite our friend.
Godzilla.
Our good friend, Godzilla. And actually, there's one particular scene that I loved in one of the episodes, and it's only like a 2-second scene where you see like one of the portals underwater, and then you see the camera go through the portal, and they go through the water, then you just see this large mass lying on the seabed floor, and the eye open up, and it's Godzilla. So you obviously, I just thought, oh, here we go.
I actually like that, because it's like one of the only times where we actually get to see like within the ocean that he's sleeping in, just seeing the environment.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I love that, and of course that led to him going to Australia, and then as he's on his way to Australia to confront Titan X, this is when we see another side of Titan X, and in the other, the bond between Titan X and the Scarabs, who have like this symbiosis relationship, where you see them building like this mass thing, like a giant, looked like a giant sandcastle thing. But then it turns out it's like this nest for Titan X to then lay an egg.
Yes.
And this is when we find out Titan X is female.
she's basically she's doing like any female in nature. She's yeah. No, she's just doing her basic mother instincts. I mean, any species on the planet, even in, who knows, in another realm, another universe or anything, they're just doing what mothers do when they're having children or, about to give birth. They get very defensive in terms like, you mess with me, you mess with my child, I'm gonna tear your new one, So it's it makes it, like I say, because we even hear when Kate, say this thing is probably just misunderstood. It's not something being destructive. It's actually something that's actually just trying to live. It's not trying to be aggressive for being aggressive sake.
And this is when, of course, because of Kentaro being manipulated by Simmons, his daughter, just like you say, she's only using him for information. She then has this bright idea to then. She originally, I think, she's wanting to capture Titan X, but then once it's revealed that she's now got an egg, she sent one of her Apex, I guess, employees to gain the egg. So this makes me also believe that she is secretly still working for Apex and her father, because the guy that she sends to go capture the egg is the same guy who was working on the ship from Apex. And then he packed things up and then he left, and now he's working for Simmons' daughter, who apparently isn't working for Apex, and is doing our own information and our own projects away from Apex to gain our father's approval. So for me, I think she secretly is working for Apex. But this is when Godzilla turns up and shit hits Australia.
Yes, the land down under,
And one thing I have to say about the CGI and how they do the monsters in the MonsterVerse they made them look like real animals, real creatures fighting naturally the way they generally would. None of this, landing in the hollow and running like they're fucking about to enter the battle with Thanos and fucking Endgame. Like what they did. Like, obviously, that scene where they landed in the hollow earth and then they jumped up and they ran and they looked like two men in obviously rubber suits.
Yeah. Which I think that was a go-to anyway, though. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what they're trying to do, because obviously the show's trying to be more serious, more grounded in tone, like 2014, where the films are just trying to be these big, budgeted, over-the-top popcorn flicks now.
Yeah, and I have to ask a question. I mean, I didn't get a chance to check this, but does anyone know if TJ Storm did some mocap for Godzilla or not on this show at all?
I don't think so. I don't think there was any mocap on the shows. I think they just built it all in house.
Oh, they just built. Okay, I thought that was, but yeah.
But because that's one thing I think we're just going to have to accept, that the future of the MonsterVerse, when it comes to the cinematic releases, they're going to be like how the how the show era was. We've had the serious tone film with 2014 up to, I would say, King of the Monsters, and past King of the Monsters, it's just going down that road of getting more science for sci-fi, more out there with plots and stories. They don't really link them properly like that all with the show. Like, for me, they're like different anthology films that, with little Easter eggs from past movies. That's how I take the films within the confines of the MonsterVerse.
That's okay with me.
But as for the series, for me, I love the tone of the series. I love how it's more grounded and serious. And it feels more like if there were monsters living in our world, the series is, and how the organization of that is how we probably would handle them.
Well, see, I think that was and truth be told, while I'm watching it, and see, this is why I say sometimes it's best to explore that side a little bit more, because you only have so much time in film to discuss certain plot points, certain discussions of everything. Here, you actually get to have it, filter out and show why and how certain things are affected by, and the human element really gives it a good, realism with that, because I mean, who's to say we wouldn't interact like that in terms of these, particular monsters in our world? How would we react into this if that kind of situation was in our backyard? And we can say it was like, oh, I'll never do that. I'll go this way instead of going that way, but we can never really say what we do, because Kate was a prime example of that. It's like, I was not expecting, to get get Shaw back. It's like, that's one thing, but to get him back by causing a, cataclysmic event, releasing, Titan X, it's only because she was trying to get Shaw back. But it's like, that's
because she knew how much Shaw meant to her grandma,
right? It's like those things add on to that, so that adds on to the realism of how would we react in those kind of circumstances.
Mm-hmm. And this leads us going back to Skull Island. And like I said, the second half of the season just blew me away. The fact that it had all these Easter eggs of like another thing that I remember when they went back to Skull Island, that realization with Kate, where she realized, I think this is where Bill died. Mm-hmm. And you know how every time you had, when it was in Kong Skull Island, where you got eaten by the skull crawler, and obviously all of the mist from the gas veins were like around, and all you could see were the flashes from the skull crawler.
Right.
Yeah, and you pretty much saw the camera that he used within that graveyard.
Yeah, so basically that's what I'm saying. So that when the skull crawler died, obviously it swallowed him and his camera. So then she actually finds his camera in the dust and on the soil around the grave site.
Yeah.
I just thought it was great how it was able to interlink it, and for me, it was one of the best scenes. And it reminds me, like I say, my favorite scene in the first season was the Bikini Atoll scene.
Right.
Where it linked it up to the very beginning of Godzilla 2014, where you're seeing Godzilla heading towards Bikini Atoll. You just see him starting to rise from the ocean, and then bang, there's the explosion of the bomb.
That whole montage of him,
and then it actually shows you those events happening in the first season. And now in this one, it's the aftermath of the events from Skull Island, where Keiko is now there with Lee Shaw, where her husband had died.
I can only imagine how traumatic that actually was, just to go to that scene and realize this is where your husband died after so many years.
And the thing about that was,
thank you.
Oh, yes. But I was, like I said, I kept thinking it was going to show that moment. I mean, they show it, but I thought they was going to extend that moment where Keiko falls, where they were in Kazakhstan, when she falls into the abyss and everything. I'm thinking they're going to show an extension of how it led that to that event, but they never do. They just do it as a quick flashback, and that's it. And I guess maybe that's how they should do it, because it's showing that how traumatic it really was. That
I was expecting them to see maybe a picture from the camera or something. Like we get this one last photograph he took.
Well, because I can't remember. I know she kind of discarded the camera, but did she take the film out the camera? I can't remember.
I don't think she did.
It was like it was toast. It was so old and probably dirt filled and everything else.
But I had this idea that she would take the film from the camera, and then in the third season, if she goes through it, she'd see like the cast, the cast photos, which they could then transform into photos of like the actors from Skull Island, like Samuel L. Jackson. That could have been like a picture of him,
yes.
stuff like that. Like they link it up to to like the third season.
Well,
But this, for me, the next part of the final episode is where things really got kind of like, where basically Isabel Simmons is now telling, she reveals what she's planning on doing. She's trying to build this outpost for her to work on in Skull Island, but what they're going to do is they're going to lure Kong into a battle with Titan X, and they're going to test the control ability of Titan X because they've now put these implants into Titan X to try and control it. And I said this in a message to you guys. Can anybody remember Destroy All Monsters when the Keelaks go to Monster Island and they use that yellow mist to knock out all the Titans, and then they put the implants in the back of the necks and heads? There's a scene with Titan X where it approaches the compound because it knows its eggs in the compound, and those little vents basically spray yellow mist and knock Titan X out, and they do the exact same thing and put an implant into the side of Titan X.
And they also found the track.
Yeah, that was entirely, completely inspired by Destroy All Monsters.
They also found the tracker that Shaw put on her years ago.
Yeah.
And you know the funny thing is, I didn't even catch that until you said that. I mean, I don't know how I missed that. It's like, yeah, they actually did something like that similar in a past film. It's like, how did I not catch that? You know, but yeah.
So for me, it just shows you, even to this day, classic movies are still inspiring the law of the current movies and events. And
I just want to say this real quick. As much as I love this film, it's my favorite Godzilla film. I hope they do not, but then knowing how Hollywood is, I hope they don't do Godzilla's signature jump kick across the and do that some kind of silly way, because I mean, like, oh god, don't you just took me out of the film.
They could have gone away with it in New Empire when they had the anti-gravity stuff going on.
True, they could have.
They could have gone away with that,
that
and the
actually would have
flying
worked
scene.
if they did it in that film.
And also the flying scene with what he did in Fist of Door. They could have gone away with that anti-gravity.
It's the moment he starts doing the victory dance like he did in Invasion of the Astro.
They can never get away with that. No matter what happens, there's no way you can no way you could get away with that.
No.
But this is where we get another part of the plot, because then Isabel Simmons then reveals not only is she luring Kong to face Titan X because they want to test how aggressive Titan X is and how they can control Titan X, but they want to kill Kong so they can have free reign on the island and control Titan X. But but I think this is bullshit. Something's telling me she's just telling Kentaro what he wants to hear so she can control him. She's basically saying, got this way, we're gonna, you know how the Axis Mundi works, you know that time works slower there. And then she even said, imagine if you got a terminal diagnosis and then we'll put you in the Axis Mundi for a few days, but in reality it could be 2 or 3 years, and you come back and there's a cure for cancer and we can save your life. She's basically taunting him that if we can do that and take you there and bring you back into the future, maybe we can take you there and bring you into the past to then save your dad before he died.
See, that's great manipulation. That's a mind fuck for some people, because it sounds so sweet, but do you ever stop to think, like, you know, is that a right course of action? You know, it's like
it's like one thing I was telling Kevin too at one point was, as Kentaro never stopped to think.
Okay.
Is John broken?
But what I was getting ready to say was has Kentaro never stopped to think, would Dad want me to bring him back? Would Dad ever want me to do this? Like, that's one thing I felt they could have Kate do is, Kentaro, would Dad ever want you to bring him back? Would Dad ever want us to bring him back from the dead? Because I think Hiroshi is that kind of guy that if he died, he would want you to leave him dead no matter what.
Right.
Yeah,
Because it's something.
yeah, it goes back to what Walter was saying about just the emotions are running through these people. Like that's why it led to Kate doing what she did. It's like Kentaro is already in his own world. He's already shut off everybody. He's like, whether or not he trusts Maddie all the way, who knows? But he's like, to him maybe now she's like a means to an end. Like if he can get his dad back, that's what he's gonna do. He doesn't even care what the consequences are at this point. He hasn't really thought it out. He's just running off emotions right now.
One thing I will say about Isabella Simmons is she's a badass. I love how it shows her.
I keep saying Maddie for some reason.
I loved how we all think of the fucking Millie Bobby Brown's character.
No.
That's probably what it is. Yeah, that's probably what it is.
Well,
like,
maybe so.
Please don't bring her back.
And you realize that she's the same actress that played in Prey, right? You do know that, right?
Yes, it is. It's Amanda Thunder. I forgot her name. Mid-Thunder, yeah.
She's hot. I gotta give it to her. She's hot.
But I liked how it shows you. I mean, I did like how it shows you as a badass. Like it showed you doing that training. Like, then when she took out the guard,
kicked. Karate chopped him right in the throat. Like, damn, girl, you just aggressive as hell. You know?
So you know what will happen if there is a season 3 commissioned, which I do think there will be, because apparently this is one of Apple Plus's highest rated shows. It's like doing really well. I think what will happen is she's playing nice for now, but then she's obviously, when she's not going to get what she wants out of Kentaro, she's going to basically be very forceful with him.
Well, something's going to happen because so far we have not seen either character in the movie. So something along the line is going to happen to either one of them.
Something tells me what's going to happen is Kentaro's going to find out, hey, I actually can't bring my dad back from the past from the dead. And she's going to be like, yeah, I only say that just to coerce you to help me with this.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So as the last episode progresses, and we now know their plots and we know like what they're up to, Kong does turn up to take on Monster X, and there is quite a decent battle between the two of them. Like I even love this, how Tight Neck can quickly just climb up the side of the mountain and then just jump on top.
Like, she really showed she's not just an aquatic creature. Like, she literally can adapt well on land. Like,
well, actually, I'm just sorry, John. Just like I'm looking at her, it's like I'm almost getting Biollante vibes from her as well, which is weird, but it's coming across that way a little bit when she's on the beach and then fighting there with Kong. It's like,
well, it's also certain poses she does too when she gets her tentacles up.
Yeah,
it also gives you hope that if they ever do bring Biollante into the Monsterverse, there's so much they could do with that.
Yeah, because and now you bring that up, because I'm thinking, because when we see her originally in the Biollante film, to see her interaction like that is like being able to move more fluently than just what we see like kind of stiff. Like it's like that would be beautiful. I mean, I'm hoping they would do a good job on her, because like move her in a way where it's like, okay, she's like a spider, like a lizard, just like scurrying around, and it's like, but in a way where it's the weight and tone is there, don't just do it. And it's like, oh, you can just go as fast as you want to as a human being. No, show the weight, show that, the weight of this thing, so show that.
Yeah, definitely show like how she's able to adapt to her environment. Especially, she was facing Kong. Again, it just showed like you expected to act like an aquatic animal would on land, but it showed like even on land, she knows how to get around.
Yes. So, Ghidorah, and that's a good point. I think Ghidorah. But what I also think as well is obviously I liked how she was just being aggressive because they were making her aggressive, but then obviously Kate eventually reveals the egg to Titan X. And basically I found it was really quite emotional how when she sees the egg, and even though she's got this implant, she overpowers the implant because our natural instinct to be there for this egg as a parented creature overpowered even that.
And then even made the system short circuit.
Well, even Kong understood at that point as well.
Yeah. I was just going to say, I love that particular scene where you see her reach in like that with that tentacle, and she picks the egg up and she holds the egg under her. Kong looks and sees the egg and he realizes what she's doing. She's there protecting that infant.
This is interesting because it just now dawned on me. Like I kept saying when I was watching this last episode, like we know that the young girl from GVK has a connection with Mothra. But this one where Kate has this like connection with Titan X, it's almost like Biollante, even though they're not really connected to Biollante. It's almost in the same manner because of like you got this creature that kind of looks like Biollante, and then you got this woman that has like a weird psychic connection with it as well. So I don't know if that's just them kind of paying a nod to Biollante in some weird way, but like I was surprised that they did that because of the little girl that has been connected with Mothra. So I was kind of surprised that they did that with Kate. But now if I'm looking at it, I'm like, I bet you they were nodding to Biollante with that one.
I will say I do enjoy how when it came to both Godzilla and Kong's interactions, like when it came to Godzilla's interaction with her in that episode where he's on that pursuit with her and she gets to Skull Island, he kind of stops her like, why is he stopping? Why ain't he fighting? And they realize, I think Godzilla's pretty much was acting like a sheepdog. He was pretty much hurting her where she needed to go. And he noticed that.
He's like a sheep herder.
Yeah, he's like bringing her back where she's supposed to go, like trying to get her back on her natural route. And
it also emphasizes more on he is the alpha Titan and that he's keeping the balance in place.
But it shows right there that these creatures have intelligence. They're not just going by instinct. They have some awareness of what they are, what they have to do, and so not.
Yeah, it's like I liked how Lee Shaw when he was on the boat and it's like in the storm, and then it zooms into the back of Godzilla's head, and Titan X is wrapped around that cliffside and then jumps into the ocean and swims towards Skull Island, and then it's Keiko that figures out, he's just keeping the balance right, and Lee Shaw goes, well, there's my plan. That's my plan.
Yeah, he's like, well, there goes my plan.
Yeah, because
that's the thing we figure out now too, because we always kind of wondered how Kong and Godzilla kind of coexist with dual alphas, but really Kong is more like the gatekeeper because of where the epicenter is of all the portals. Kong just runs Skull Island. He's like, all right, I'm the first offense, but if you get outside of me, Mr. Lizard is going to track you down and take care of business.
Guys, it was pretty much like I'm not sure how to say it. Kong's like the jailer, Godzilla's like the warden. If you don't want the warden to hear that you got out. And sorry, Kevin.
No, carry on.
I was going to say, so I did like that. It's like at first Godzilla didn't know what was going on because he was pretty much lured by an imitation of radiation. But then after a while, Godzilla got to finally realize the whole gist of the situation. Then he went, okay, I got to get this one back where she's supposed to go. But then I like later on, whenever we get down the battle with Kong noticed the egg and he went, and he backed up and he finally understood that this creature was just trying to get her offspring back. And he went up, he just went, my bad, I'm just going to rest up here.
Well, I love that moment because he looks down and he sees the egg like wrapped in a tentacle and he's looking at it. But what he does, I just love the whole scene where he backs up and then he climbs the mountain and he's like, go on, get past. And then she just starts crawling away, and he's just sitting on top of the mountain, just looking at her as she's heading away. And then, of course, because if the implant it's knocked her like she's confused, she doesn't know the direction she's meant to go in, and that's when Lee Shaw turns up in the helicopter and uses originally the sound of the Titans to lure her back to where the main epicenter of the portals are.
Yes.
But then obviously that doesn't work because it gives out the sound system.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where you see like you see what we had with Jaya, with Mothra, that psychic link. You now have Kate standing at the forefront of the helicopter looking out at Monster X. Monster X clearly sees her and recognizes her, and there's like this connection between her and this creature, and it came from the moment she released it from the portal.
Right.
And the lower obviously the land near the portal, Titan X arrives at the portal, and just before it disappears and it goes back to that's this money to live in peace. There's like this connection between Kate and it's like a hello, a thank you, and a goodbye all in one moment.
Right. And I just
thought it was brilliant.
But I said
I almost got emotional with that part because it's almost like releasing an animal that was once abused back into its natural environment, or helping a mother animal get its infant back. I mean, we probably see this when it comes to elephants, because elephants have that much intelligence.
Yeah. I'm glad they never killed Titan X off, because it opens the door for not only Titan X to return, but its offspring. And if there's ever whether it be a television season, or they finally decide, right, we're going to end the cinematic universe of the Monsterverse, but we're going to do it with a big fucking bang and do a part 1 and part 2 version of destroy all monsters. There's so much they could play with. There's so many new monsters they could bring back. Shimo, Titan X, all Behemoth, Methuselah, Tiamat, and all of that. So I'm glad they never killed her off.
But I've said this before, real quick. Sorry to cut you off. I've said this before. I hope if they do that, please make these films not just a 2-hour thing, or at least a little over 2. At least give it some more weight by making them like maybe 2.5, maybe a little bit more than that films, because people will watch these. They will watch them. It's like you just have to have a good story to balance it out, and people will watch it. They'll be invested in it. I just feel like the television series is what it's supposed to do, which is supposed to really get you invested with the Titans, what they do, but the characters too who are involved or interacting with one another. With the movies, we want to see the action, we want to see it, but have a balance with it, and hopefully it's a little longer than just 2 hours, because you can only do so much in a 2-hour frame.
Well, that's why I'm saying, but if you're going to do basically an end game scenario, you can't just do one film. It would have to be a part 1 and a part 2.
Right.
Just like what they've done with Avengers. They had Infinity War, then they had Endgame. Now they're doing, of course, Doomsday, then it's Secret War after that. If you want to end it with a bang, you're going to have to put your money where your mouth is and give the people what they want.
Exactly. There you
go. But everything gets wrapped up in the end of the last episode. Keiko and Kate officially join Monarch with Tim in May. Lee Shaw goes rogue. Kentaro leaves with Isabel Simmons. And after you see, basically what's happening is Kate and Keiko, our grandmother, are now going to be basically the leads of the new Monarch.
Right.
And now that all these emotional family storylines have been connected, except the storyline with Kentaro and Kate, which I think will be a strong presence in a season 3, how she wins him back, or they solve this family feud between brother and step sister. Right. But also going to have more connections with Mr. Lee Shaw, because Lee Shaw final moments of Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2 is where he ends up in Thailand and he's literally walking about and he bumps into somebody who he's had some sort of business dealings with, and he's basically trying to track down Kentaro and Isabel Randa. And he goes, yes, they were here, and they've went ahead through towards the mountains, but it's a place we do not go because it's dangerous, because there is a legend and it's haunted by a demon. And the final shot of Monarch Legacy of Monsters Season 2 is you see the guy and he's got burn marks on his arms, and because Lee Shaw goes, is it real? Is this really that dangerous? And he pulls his shirt down and he's got burn marks on his arm. And then you go towards the mountains, and the next thing you see is Rodan.
Yes.
King of the skies
I have a
himself.
theory about this now, because there's a lot
After
of
7 years,
Huh?
after 7 years, the fire demon
King of the
is
skies.
But now we have to wonder: is this the original Rodan, or is it its partner?
Well,
Wow, that's
you know the internet likes this talk, and so far what they're saying is, and even the FX team who got the original model of the Rodan that they use in King of the Monsters, they basically stated it's the exact same model. It's the same model that they used in King of the Monsters, but what they didn't state, even though it's the same design and the same model, they never said it's the exact same Rodan.
Yeah. So obviously, everyone talks about the end of King of when it was the beginning of GBK, where they were going through the list and they kept saying defeated, but it really never said deceased. So either Godzilla and Kong were just kind of making roughshod and beating up on all the other kaiju to get to each other, or those were defeated and destroyed. And this just happens to be like another nod to the Rodan film, where there was actually 2 Rodans in that film. So either we have a partner that's been hiding or taking cover for years after the King of the Monsters, or it's just Rodan reposition itself in a different place. Either way, I'm fucking happy as a clam that he's back.
This takes place before King of the Monsters.
No, it doesn't. I don't think it does.
You sure about that? Because it
takes place in 2017, 2018. King of the Monsters takes place in 2019.
Yeah. This is way before King of the Monsters.
Because I don't think Apex was around before King of the Monsters. That was
I think they were probably in development, because it wasn't until Godzilla vs. Kong.
Well, don't forget at the end of season 1 of Monarch, when you had the British maze boss, who was that manipulative lady who basically, she has a small role in this. She's on the phone to Walter Simmons and she's looking at the computer because there's been a massive, crash of the company losing profit because of negativity. So they decided to rebrand the company, and the company was renamed Apex. That was the end of season 1, and season 2, which is set. So
okay, you're right. It's 2017, so it is before. So this must be the original Rodan.
Yeah. So I think something Kevin mentioned too is that it could have been it could be talking about how Rodan finally ended up in Mexico.
The Rodan in King of the Monsters Awakens in Mexico. This is in Thailand, but there is also another theory. And I really think this is interesting. So, if everyone remembers the original Rodan film with the 2 Rodan, that was a metaphor for Russia and the Cold War. believe it or not.
Oh, I didn't.
Now, so if you look into it, there's like a metaphor within the foundations of the original Rodan for the Cold War. Now, if you remember Lee Shaw, he looks up at Rodan and he goes, "I'll see you soon."
Mhm.
So a lot of people are taking that as Rodan gonna be the Titan that's awakened in Russia in Red Monarch.
Ah, okay.
Well, also, then again, it is called Red Monarch, and Rodan's color, especially in the OG Toho years, Rodan always was like a reddish brown color.
So that's another fan theory that that is what this is leading to. They reckon it's going to be a lead to Rodan being featured in Red Monarch, but it also means he would have a stronger role in
Season 3.
season 3 of Monarch.
Which brings me back to what I said before, is that could this, if since it's taking place in Russia, 80s Russia, could there be
1983, no, it's 1984 it's going to take place in what I've read.
But I'm wondering somewhere down the line, would it be something where it leads to off camera him causing the Chernobyl meltdown? You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm just crazy idea, but I mean, it would be funny if they just kind of hinted at that, because you got to take real world events to kind of, implant them into these shows.
So the theory is that this is a different Rodan, and that it could be one of the parents of Rodan. Now, say Rodan appears in Red Monarch. Who's to say it's just one Rodan? They could show Rodan's parents. And then what could happen is, because of Axis Mundi, we know time works differently, one of these Rodans could fly into the Axis Mundi, then re-emerge in Mexico and lay an egg in the volcano. And that would be the Rodan that makes an appearance in King of the Monsters.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can't assume that, any of these creatures are just the only of their kind. I mean, we know there's multiple Kongs. We know there have been multiple Godzillas. We know there's been multiple
That could explain
Mothras.
a bit of his fighting capabilities that we saw in King of the Monsters, where he immediately took on Ghidorah, probably because, again, Rodan's species could be naturally aggressive, but also the way he lost to Mothra, so that could be that this Rodan could be inexperienced.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty obvious that Rodan and the Monsterverse is not a Earth-friendly creature.
And I do think it does make my theory, because based on the character Rodan, owned and created by Toho Ltd. So the reason I'm showing that is, as you know, when it comes to what a lot of people were hesitant about and worried that there would be no Monsterverse continued after King of the Monsters, is because for every creature that Legendary uses or Apple Plus use, it costs them extorted amount of money. Yes. So in my opinion, if Apple Plus are going to pay to use the trademark, the name of Rodan, it for me suggests that why would you just do it for one season? So it makes sense to me if he's going to appear in Red Monarch and season 3, that's your money paid back. Yeah,
I don't think they were going to just tease Rodan at the end of season 2 without doing something else with him going forward.
Yeah, that would just it's just like the mistake Toho did when they had Mechagodzilla and the Polygon Netflix trilogy on the poster to City on Edge of Battle, and then put him in all the advertisements, even make a figure of that Mechagodzilla, and yet he never showed up, and look what happened with that.
Because up to this point, Apple's basically every creature outside of Godzilla and Kong is being an original Titan.
Yeah.
But then to use the IP of Godzilla and Kong would cost a pretty penny. So to buy another IP, which is the Rodan one, and feature it in season 3 and say Red Monarch, it would also mean, because the fans have been wanting more Rodan, have been wanting more Mothra. They had Mothra back in, of course,
Empire.
the New Empire. So to have Rodan back and make him a big part of season 3 in Red Monarch for me makes 100%. It makes sense.
I have another theory. What if, of course, we know that in the original Rodan, the Rodan had a May that also had and they both had hatchlings. But here's another theory. What if the Rodan species are naturally aggressive, especially towards another Rodan that's not of the same roost? Like, for example, there's the shoebill. The shoebill storks are a completely different kind of demographic when it comes to birds, whereas most birds are social, but territorial towards anything that's not a part of the nest. Shoebill storks will attack, like, they want to be by themselves, so if another shoebill comes in their area, they're going to attack it. It's on site. So my theory is, what if Rodan species are also very aggressive towards each other?
For me personally, in season 3, I as much as I love Godzilla, I think at this point, I kind of agree with Kevin's theory that eventually they're going to weed Godzilla out to a certain point because it's really more about Kong going forward. But I would expect, at least I would want to see Rodan maybe fight a different kaiju, even if it's like legendary created in season 3. Like I
think that's a possibility.
I want to see the Rodan being the focus of the 3rd season. Like, you got Godzilla and Kong pretty much dominated the movies. Let's just go with Rodan and see what they do with him, which would be kind of neat, even if he's being a villain. Like, I would still like to see it.
I would like to see him, because Kevin mentioned about having another legendary created aerial kaiju. That way we could see his aerial combat capabilities to the fullest extent, which I would love to see that. But I think what would be interesting too is getting a Serpentine tied in, because it would be like because it's kind of like how birds of prey tend to hunt venomous snakes, so it would be interesting to see maybe Rodan showing signs of intelligence.
Or how we Fire and Ice, Shimo versus Rodan.
I don't think they've got the budget for that quite yet. But I think, well, obviously, I don't think they'll never not feature Godzilla, because the thing is, if you look at season 1, it was all Godzilla focused, basically. Apart from the Frostfork and the Ion Titan, Godzilla was the main focus. Now, this series was a mixed bag, because it had elements of Kong, but he was basically just seen as like the protector of Skull Island. You only had maybe 2 elements of Godzilla. One was a dream sequence in Tokyo, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
The second one, of course, was his battle with Titan X, but once the battle was gone, he disappeared. The main focus, and I think they'll always have one Titan that is the main focus, was Titan X. So I would imagine with season 3, Rodan's going to be the main focus, and Godzilla will make 1 or 2 appearances, and then any other Titan that they feel is going to be the rival to Rodan, it'll be the other main focus. That's how I feel. And if there is more than one Rodan, that could be him. There you go. There's your money. You're featuring not more than one Rodan. You're having the parents of the Rodan that appears in King of the Monsters, and the whole season could be about how they're going to protect the world from these 2 aerial titans.
That's a good point. Yeah, I mean, you can come up with any kind. And this is the one thing I have to bring up. As long as they stay consistent and don't do like they did with the prequel to John Carpenter's The Thing, do it like that. Don't do it like that, and just make sure like, hey, did you see the previous film? I'll kind of follow track with it, So it's like, look at the films, look at the show, do that. Don't fall off the horse too much.
And another thing, I think, I love them in the show, both the young and the old. I would like to see if more shows now run for between 4, 5, and 6 seasons. Say they manage to stretch Monarch out for 4 to 5 seasons. Once the seasons are done, I would love to see Kurt Russell transfer into the films.
But see,
even Kate Randa, they could make Kate Randa or even Keiko the new Dr. Zawazawa.
but here's my question about that now, because this is something I feel, because we brought up about Hiroshi, dying. I'm wondering, is it going to be a period where one or two of these characters is going to, pass away, in depending on how many seasons they do, because that could happen,
Yeah, very true. So I'm going to go around the group, and I'm going to ask you for your overall thought on the season 2 and your rating from, because obviously I know, Walter, you weren't there when we did season 1, so I want you to rate, like, everyone who's going to rate if your season 1 rating and your season 2 rating. But we'll start with my good friend Mr. DJ Nubis, your overall thought and your ratings.
I enjoyed season 2. The thing about the series, like, I do enjoy it, but maybe not as much as the movies. But I think right now I can still stay on board with it, because I do like that they're taking a different tone with it. They're sticking closer to the 2014 more serious stuff that's going on with that. Season 1, I think I'd probably end up on like a 7 out of 10 rating. This one I'd probably give like an 8.5 out of 10 rating for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Jedi Granville.
Well, it's crazy because, as I said before, I pretty much I just binge watched both seasons in less time than I ever imagined. I never thought I could do that, but I did. I have to say, compared to 1 and 2 seasons, believe it or not, I actually like. Not to say that the first season isn't, got you hooked in and everything. The second season, but probably because since it got there of what they know and what they're doing right now, I like it actually a little bit better. Even though that one episode, I think it was like episode 6 or 7, one of the two, where you had so much filler in there. It's like, okay, we get what you're saying, but you need to move along here, and everything. But if I want a rating on this, season 1, I will give it a strong 7.5, whereas the second season, I'm gonna give it an 8.
Nice. John.
What I liked about the first season was that, of course, obviously it's what set the pace and started everything for the entire storyline. Just the I like how it brought back to the San Francisco scene, since we got more in depth with what happened to the people that actually had to survive that event. And then how everything carried from there with bringing the new characters in, how we transition from past to present, get introduced to Shaw, learning everything, including about Axis Monday. And then the fight, even though it was short-lived, was very interesting. And then season 2, it started off pretty strong. But as you mentioned, I had a little bit of pacing issues. But then once we got to, I think episode 6 or 7, that's when things started to pick up and get really interesting. Definitely the big focus, I would say, to that is, the first season, Shaw was the best character, whereas this season, there was great improvement with a lot of the characters we had issues with from the first season. And of course, I liked how it showed more intelligence from the Titans, especially Godzilla and Kong's part when it came to dealing with Titan X. And then, of course, the big reveal to Rodan at the end was the icing on top. So with season 1, I'll give it an 8.5, and season 2, I'll give it an 8.
Jake Hall.
First season was good. Definitely loved how it was between the first Godzilla and Skull Island. Love how they filled in the gaps, and you got to introduce to the Frostvark, that tree-looking boar, and all the human characters, the Ion Dragon, and the final fight between him and Godzilla just ripped him basically almost in half and threw him into that was pretty awesome. Second season, definitely enjoyed the Titan X aspect. I love how Kate was able to be synced with it, and how Keiko was able to record the sound as Kate was in the water to get the creature's echolocation. And love the both battles. Like Kong's battle with Titan X a little more than Godzilla's, sad to say. And with the surprise of Rodan at the end, that definitely setting up for something big. So season 1, I'll give it a 7.9. And for season 2, I'll give it an 8.5.
Okay. Well, as for me, when it comes to season 1, I absolutely adored season 1. I loved the old school vibe, how it went into the 1950s. I loved how it linked up with 2014. I loved the tone. I loved how it had the seriousness of 2014. And I liked how it reintroduced it and basically made the lore of the world much bigger. It just made me feel like it just made the whole concept and the world of the monster much bigger and more global. So I'm going to give series 1 a 7 out of 10. Season 2, I love how it basically continues that kind of mythology and growth. The family dynamic storylines, some of it I enjoyed, some of it I thought was a bit overbearing. The pacing is season 2 for me slowed down slightly compared to season 1, even though they're both quite a slow build, pair of shows or seasons. I love Titan X. I love the introduction, how at the beginning it kind of came across that they were introducing me to the big bad, this villainous creature, but in the end it turned out just to be a mother looking for its way home. And seeing Kong and Godzilla again was fantastic. And like you said, Rodan being reintroduced, the fact that they're bringing Rodan in tells me we're heading into something much bigger in season 3. I think it's gonna be more action packed, because I think even though you can still tell great stories and still have action, because Rodan is quite an aggressive creature, I think we're gonna see just how aggressive Rodan can be.
I mean, his segment in Kingdom Monsters was the best part. Was probably one of the best scenes.
Oh yeah, when he burst out of the mountain and just took out the jets over the water, just ice on the cake. But I'm kind of think, even though I think it was different, it's still similar to the first one. So I'm also going to give season 2 a 7 out of 10. I think they're both a 7 out of 10. Okay. But I do think Monarch season 2 is still a great watch, and if they bring them out on Blu-ray, I'm definitely going to buy them. But coming up on Kaiju Connections next, for everybody who's interested, the next Kaiju Connections classic movie discussion in June is going to be The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
I'll be down for that.
Okay. Yes. And then after that, going into July, probably after we come back from J-Fest, we're doing Kronos, 1977, which I have never seen. In the final of the classic Kaiju monster movies, we're going to be doing Dogora.
Yes.
In September, this is when we're going to hit and start doing these bad boys.
Oh yeah,
the Showa era, and we're going to start off with the one that started it all, Godzilla 1954.
Okay.
So yeah, we're starting to do the Godzilla movies starting in September. We'll probably do the odd Kaiju special, because I do want to do eventually say Cloverfield, the Pacific Rim movies. I even wouldn't mind doing a review and a discussion on Colossal with Anne Hathaway.
Yes, that's I think that's need to be talked about. That's a pretty good film.
Especially with the history behind that film.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Nice rating.
Okay.
But before we wrap things up, Mr. DJ Anubis, tell us what's coming to the Metal Tavern Radio.
Well, honestly, I haven't really set anything up for this week. I've been working on a lot of my AI music stuff, so I've been really driven with that right now. But on the 17th, Sunday, ironically, Mr. Jedi and I will be doing Kaiju Spotlight on Kronos, which I also have never seen. So this will be a new thing for me to dive into. I had never heard of this particular movie, so this will be fun to do with Jedi and see what this is all about.
Nice. Jedi, what's coming to Jedi Granville Productions?
Well, come next week, I will be talking about a almost lost classic, basically a tokusatsu version of, or basically a Japanese version of Moby Dick, The Whale God, and that's an interesting talk, and hopefully it's going to be pretty much decent discussion. And later that month, I'm going to be talking about the 45th anniversary retrospective of Outland, which is nothing more than a sci-fi version of High Noon that stars Sean Connery. And later that month is my 35th anniversary talk about a great Ridley Scott film, Thelma and Louise. And I'm believing that Mr. DJ Anubis and hopefully DJ Neko will be joining me for that. Hope you could solid talk. And also, I want to go ahead and get this out the way because I want to spread the love, as the saying goes. Beginning of June, I came in with this just like out of the blue. Top 10 monster sound effects, which means that anything that's not Godzilla sound roar or anything like that. What's your favorite Godzilla? What's your favorite monster roars in films? So.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Godzuki.
Yeah. Okay, you mentioned that before. Now, come on.
Yeah, you did say it had to be Godzilla.
Well, not necessarily Godzilla, but I mean something that's because naturally Godzilla would be number one in most of us. But yeah, if you see Godzuki, well, hey, I'm not,
What's coming up with Big Bad Wolf?
I'd say sometime soon I'll try to also edit another recording I did of Space Marine 2, get that post on Tuesday, and then of course every Saturday at 10 a.m. I am doing my live Man-Eater playthrough, in which I just got done being the Barracuda boss, and so I'll be continuing on with that story. And then of course I recently rewrote the novel I wrote in college, The Call, which is an epistolary in the form of journal entries and the POV of a mercenary. And I'm still in the process of working on Wolf Creek.
And Jake Hall, I know you don't have a channel, but he's always a guest here on Kaiju Connections or anything on the entertainment headquarters, from horror to retro to film discussions, franchise discussions. He's always has an open door to be a part of anything that we do here on this channel. Outside of all the Kaiju Connection stuff, I do on the 13th of this month, May, we're doing the next Into the Darkness franchise discussion, and it's going to be the Hostel film series. And then I do believe me and DJ Anubis are going to be discussing on the 22nd of May, part of the Retro Classic Movie Show, probably the only Steven fucking Seagal film I would ever watch, Under Siege. So anyway,
we should say the real Steven Seagal, not the poser Steven Seagal.
Fucking I've ate too many fucking donuts at Dunkin' Donuts. But anyway, that is it for Kaiju Connections. This has been fun talking with my amazing guest, Monarch Legacy of Monsters, Steven 2. Looking forward to season 3, hopefully with this guy and Red Monarch in the near future, which starts production this August with Wyatt Russell starring as the Young Lee show, and he's also an executive producer on that show. So
Ooh.
it's probably going to hit Apple either late 2027 or early 2028. But
I'm going to go
might
for
have-
2028.
Yeah. Well, we've got in 2027 Godzilla versus Kong Supernova. But as my good friend Jedi Granville always says, keep on enjoying your movies, keep on enjoying all things entertainment, and keep the kaiju love alive. Wah, wah.
Keep the love.